The city of Chicago, Illinois, was alive with energy. The elevated trains rattled above the streets, the air smelled of roasted coffee drifting from corner cafes, and the sidewalks buzzed with people hurrying in every direction. Among them was Madison Carter, a 26-year-old journalist who worked for a local magazine. Madison was the type of person who believed in stories, the ones in books, the ones in newspapers, and the ones people carried in their hearts. But the story unfolding in her own life was something she never imagined she'd write about, because somehow, unbelievably, her grandmother had stolen her boyfriend. Madison had been dating Ethan Walker, a young architect from Chicago, for almost 2 years. Ethan was thoughtful, steady, and had a smile that could make the world pause for a moment. Madison thought she knew him better than anyone. Her grandmother, Eleanor Carter, was 72 years old, sharp-minded, witty, and full of energy. She lived in a big old Victorian house in Evanston, just outside the city, where she often hosted family dinners. Madison loved her dearly, but Eleanor had a habit of stealing the spotlight wherever she went. One Friday night, Madison brought Ethan to a family dinner at Eleanor's home. The moment Ethan walked in, Eleanor's eyes sparkled in a way Madison didn't expect. She complimented his tie, teased him about his posture, and even laughed a little too loudly at his jokes. Madison brushed it off. After all, her grandmother was charming with everyone. But soon, Madison noticed something unusual. Ethan seemed drawn into Eleanor's stories, her tales of traveling through Europe in her 20s, of marching in protests during the 1960s, of all the adventures Madison herself had grown up hearing. By dessert, Madison sat quietly at the table, watching as her grandmother leaned closer to Ethan, her hand resting on his arm. And Ethan didn't move it away. The days that followed grew complicated. Ethan began canceling their usual Friday night outings, claiming he was too busy at work. Madison, curious, visited her grandmother one afternoon, only to find Ethan's car parked outside. Her heart thudded in her chest as she walked up the steps. Inside, she heard laughter, her grandmother's rich, melodic laugh, and Ethan's deep chuckle. Madison froze in the hallway, listening. "You really should join me for my art class next week," Eleanor was saying. "I'd love that," Ethan replied warmly. Madison walked into the room, her jaw tight. "Ethan? Grandma? What's going on here?" Ethan looked startled. "Oh, Madison, I just stopped by to help Eleanor fix a shelf." Eleanor smiled, unbothered. "And he's wonderful company. I was just telling him he has the charm of an old movie star." Madison narrowed her eyes, but Eleanor simply patted her hand. "Don't look so serious, dear. We're just friends." Yet, deep inside, Madison felt a cold knot forming. The weeks turned stranger. Eleanor invited Ethan to her charity events, her community theater rehearsals, even her weekend garden parties. Madison, feeling replaced, confronted Ethan. "Why are you spending so much time with her?" she demanded one evening. "She reminds me of my grandmother," Ethan said gently. "I lost her when I was a teenager. Being around Eleanor feels comforting." Madison blinked. "Comforting?" "Yes," Ethan insisted. "She's full of wisdom, and she's been helping me with my latest project. I'm designing a cultural center, and her stories are inspiring." It wasn't what Madison expected. She realized then that perhaps it wasn't about romance at all, but about connection, nostalgia, and the bond Ethan missed in his own life. Still, the ache of jealousy didn't fade easily. One afternoon, Madison went to Eleanor's house unannounced. To her shock, she overheard Eleanor on the phone, talking about Madison. "She's always been so talented," Eleanor said warmly, "but she doesn't see it in herself. Ethan, if you really love her, you need to remind her of her worth." Madison froze. Her grandmother wasn't trying to steal Ethan at all. She was testing him, making sure his feelings for Madison were genuine and encouraging him to support her dreams. Later that evening, Madison confronted her. "Why didn't you just tell me?" Eleanor smiled knowingly. "Because, darling, love isn't about words, it's about actions. I needed to see how Ethan treated me, how he spoke of you when you weren't there. He passed every test." Madison's eyes filled with tears. You, you were protecting me." "Always," Eleanor said softly. When Madison met Ethan again, she finally understood. He hadn't been drifting away. He had been building something stronger. With Eleanor's encouragement, he had secretly prepared a surprise, an exhibition showcasing Madison's journalism work alongside his architectural designs. The night of the event, Madison stood in awe as she saw her articles, photographs, and stories displayed in the gallery, framed beautifully beside Ethan's models in blue.